And he was like, "Why is this inappropriate?" And because I was rapping, I was 6th grade, I was a 12-year-old boy. I was rapping about like having sex or something like that. Which I knew nothing about. So I didn't know I was going to tell a story today, so I just wrote some notes real quick. But I'm telling about my first love, which is music. Mm-hmm. And so starting back in kinder music, you can imagine what age that was. And, playing like, what do they give you, the recorder? And just like banging on little tiny xylophones. And I still have like a toy box of like some of that stuff. I don't know that it's from that class, but like I still like to collect instruments and carry it around the same way I do like beach balls and stuff. First grade, I got into flute. That was my first instrument. So I think my family was listening to like, my dad was like Jethro Tull, and they had like the little flute solos, and he's like, "You want to play that?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure." Like so impressionable, like just anything. So they just want to make me a well-rounded child, so they pushed me into that. So now I played flute for 4 years. I got to middle school, and I was in band, and I couldn't be a middle school boy playing in flute in the band. It was just too much for my ego, which I couldn't even comprehend at that time. So I said, let me move to saxophone, and that lasted another 6 months. And saxophone was amazing. The person who invented the saxophone was a flautist. So the transition and fingering was quite easy, but it was still like carrying around this luggage. Like I was a boy in band, I just couldn't handle it. So made up another excuse, got out. But by that point, I'd already found rapping. Like at 12 years old, I remember the first time I was writing lyrics, I got caught in the middle of we were watching a movie in my history class in 6th grade. And so I'd been writing some Bismarck key lyrics on one side and then making my own up on the other side. And I remember that he walked over, saw me, picked it up, put a disgusted face on, and he said, "See me after class." So, I'm nervous, I'm going to get a detention or something. And he says, "What do you think I should do?" And I was like, "Let me go. I'm in trouble. Yeah, I get it. What do you need?" And he was like, "Why is this inappropriate?" And because I was rapping, I was 6th grade, I was a 12-year-old boy, I was rapping about having sex or something like that, which I knew nothing about. So, but from then on, that kind of just stuck with me, and I was always writing every class in the back. Went on through college, in the back of the class, just writing, head down, not really paying attention to which is, luckily I did well enough in high school that when I got to college, I went in as a sophomore, and I got all of that extra credit to blow. So I still graduated on time. The first time I realized I was good at it was my freshman year in my first semester of college. I remember I was hanging out, and my roommate, he started rapping. And I remember thinking, this guy sucks. I could do way better than him. So I started writing again. I hadn't done it in a bit. And so after about a year of that, I went to my first open mic. And I bombed. I was so scared, and I got feedback as I was up in the mic and just whispering too much, mumbling. But I got that first taste of being on stage and feeling really comfortable. I went back the next day to a different open mic and did a little better, and just it was that progress. I was on a path now. So recently, I started at 12, so at the age of 30, I just last week went to my first freestyle battle. I've been watching them for a while. Stood on stage and in front of a crowd of 100 people, attempted to insult the other person, and I got past the first round. And so that was a lot of fun. I was nervous going up to it because I was I'm very comfortable on stage at this point. Anything that I perform that's already pre-planned, but then doing something that is completely improvisational, and this is fine. But I also have to rhyme, and I have to insult them, and I have to please the crowd and get judged for it. So, but once I was on stage, I was so comfortable. I didn't care that I wasn't doing that great. I got past the first round. The second person was basically someone who had won the last 2 times, and they went on to win that time. So 3-time champ, I didn't really stand a chance. It just felt good, and I knew okay, I've blown through another thing. Eventually I'll do my first time in stand-up. I just need to keep blowing through anything that makes me slightly uncomfortable, because that's where you aim for growth. Something that feels hard, something that feels embarrassing or painful. It's okay, well, that's where I got to direct my focus. And then finally, I just released my first mixtape after 18 years of just writing lyrics and never showing friends here and there, recording one song, putting it to SoundCloud on private, and then having people encourage me over the course of a decade. Because 8 years I wrote, and I didn't really show it to that many people. Then 10 years I wrote, and I would show it to friends who told me, "You're good," and I kind of believe you. Like, finally, yeah, it's called refrigerator art because it is. I heard a musician say, if you're just making art for yourself, put it on the fridge and call it a day. And that's how I felt. I didn't feel like I was making it for consumption, and so I just called it that. It's way too lyrical, way too heady for something that is like. I'd like to move more pop because that does sound really interesting to me. Like I like to make stuff. I want to make a banger. I want to just be completely quiet. But like right now, that's all of my processing is like making that music. And so I put that out 7 tracks, and it feels good to like be now on the beginning of a new chapter where I can just start making music for me for fun and just putting it out, like not really thinking too much about who's gonna hear it.
Awesome.